Good morning, everybody. I am excited to get to introduce to you two fantastic ladies who are going to be presenters for us on this session of our virtual HCA conference from CTAHR. And first, I want to thank our sponsors, our co-sponsor with HDOA, our platinum sponsors, Monarch Coffee, Savor Brands, Greenwell Farms, Tricor Braun. Our gold sponsors, CTAHR, Kona Hills, Rural Crop Insurance Services, and our silver sponsors, Green Flash Coffee, Maui Grown Coffee Distributors. So thank you to all of our sponsors. It makes all of this stuff possible for us, and we really, really appreciate them as well. So first off, I'd like to introduce Andrea, small and mighty that she is. Andrea Kawabata, am I pronouncing that right? I always mess you up with Andrea, I apologize. Andrea is works with CTAHR, and she works out of our Kona Extension office, and always a pleasure to see her when she comes out to the farm, and is such a wealth of knowledge. She has been working with CTAHR since 2011, coordinating and providing assistance with coffee bearer borer and other lots of crazy pest management recommendations for all of us growers. And Julie Coughlin holds a position in research over there you're in Hilo, right, Julie? Anyway, with 30 years experience, Julie's focus is identifying and prioritizing pest control needs and generating that data for all of us as well. And so with that, I'm going to start with Andrea and let you take over.
Great, thanks, Abby. And thank you to the Hawaii Coffee Association for hosting this virtual conference and for inviting Julie and I to do a presentation and update you on CTAHR's activities. I think I'm ready to go, my presentation. Great, thank you. All right, so I'm going to do more of a general presentation of the research and extension updates from CTAHR, and then Julie will talk more specifically about what the IR4 program is doing for the coffee industry. And this is going to be an update from about last July to this June. So I'll go through a couple of different projects based around coffee root knot nematode management. I'll talk a little bit about CBB, integrated pest management recommendations, where to find that information, some of the activities happening on Kauai, as well as the CBB and CLR conference. Third, I'll talk a bit about coffee leaf rust and some of the resources that are available to you. And you know, pesticide safety goes hand in hand. So I'll talk a bit about what we've been doing for worker protection standards, as well as sprayer calibration and for the ease of pesticide calculations. And then lastly, I'll talk about one of our exciting projects on soil and plant health. So before I begin, I wanted to thank and acknowledge all of the funding agencies, as well as sponsors, our collaborators, and project partners throughout the year. We've got CTAHR, USDA PBARC, USDA NIFA, Nutrient Ag Solutions, American Samoa Community College, the Foundation for Food and Agricultural Research, the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, Western Extension Risk Management Education Center, the University of Puerto Rico, Maui Coffee Association, Hawaii Coffee Association, the Hawaii Coffee Growers Association, United Ka'u Farmers Cooperative, as well as folks throughout the Hawaii state coffee industry. So thank you very much for all of your support. So the first project I wanted to talk about is spearheaded by Dr. Kunhui Wang, as well as Roxana Myers. And it is on the trial of a product called Vellum 1 for the management of coffee root knot nematode. And their project is supported in part by Bayer as well as CTAHR. So coffee root knot nematode is a coffee root as well as soil pest. It can cause severe tree and yield declines, can cause the dieback of trees as well as severe economic losses to Hawaii's coffee production. And what this pest does, it reduces the ability for the tree to properly take up nutrients and water. And so the support of the tree itself as well as its production is greatly reduced. So this project was a greenhouse trial that looked at a product called Vellum 1. This product is not yet registered for use on coffee in Hawaii, but some of these projects are the basis to getting products registered for use. So the data is really important for further testing. And this product was tested with 2 different volumes of water per acre, either with or without a transformer or a soil wetting agent, and then also to compare it against the control. And they had 8 replications with coffee in dibble tubes. The dibble tubes were inoculated with 2nd stage juveniles of the coffee root knot nematode, and then the inoculation was followed up with a Vellum 1 drenching on that same day. So they took data 6 months after the nematodes were inoculated and the treatments were conducted, and they looked at the number of eggs per plant, number of juveniles per plant, shoot weight, as well as root weight. And if you briefly take a look at the graphs, if you see a difference between an A and a B, there was a significant difference. If you see all A's above the bars, that means that really there was no significant difference. So in summary for their project, they did find that in this greenhouse experiment, Vellum 1 did suppress coffee root knot nematode egg production as well as the numbers of juvenile nematodes. Vellum 1 treatment led to a slight increase in shoot and root weight of the coffee seedlings 6 months after inoculation. They felt that adjusting the drenching coverage from 100 to 500 gallons of water per acre, as well as adding the adjuvant or soil wetting agent transformer, did not really make a difference in this small dibble tube experiment. And so their recommendation would be to have future trials in the direct field and to look at the drenching coverage rate and if the soil adjuvant is needed when applying Vellum 1 in the coffee fields. So the second nematode management project is located at the Kona Research Station. And this is a project with Stuart Nakamoto, Dr. Roxana Myers, myself, Matt Miyahira, Nick Yamauchi, and Dylan Cunningham at the station. And this project has been sponsored by the Department of Ag, CTAHR, as well as USDA. So this project looks at different replant strategies using grafted trees that are on Fukunaga or Arnoldiana rootstock. And these are Liberica rootstocks that were determined to be better rootstock materials according to a long-term 4-year study that was published last year by Dr. Roxana Myers. And we are still collecting data. So this data collection is going to happen next week. So unfortunately, we don't have any of that data for you this week for the conference, but we will provide that to you at next year's conference or even prior to that if we have some preliminary data that looks promising. And the treatments were to replant these grafted trees either next to a declining or dying tree, in between trees that were declining, in the original hole where a tree was lost, either with 50-50 compost and soil or with original soil from that hole. We were also looking at a bionematicide as well as a chemical nematicide and testing Vellum 1 as well as Movento for nematicide properties. This project also tries to address the bottlenecks with the management of coffee root knot nematode by clonally propagating the rootstock mother trees that we have on station. So we, as well as the industry, can produce additional rootstock seeds, as well as providing rootstock seed material for the industry and growers. Throughout the last year, we held 7 hands-on coffee grafting workshops, even through the pandemic, while following CDC regulations for social distancing as well as masks. And that was helping to teach growers how to do their own grafting so that they can reduce the cost of replacing their farm with grafted trees. So moving on to CBB, last year we did publish our 4th version of the CBB Integrated Pest Management document, and it is found online. This presentation will be provided to HCA, and these links will be clickable so that you can head over and go through some of these documents and publications that I'm talking about. So a couple of the sections that are new in this 2020 document is going to talk about the impact of feral and unmanaged coffee sites and how to deal with that, as well as the importance of starting the season with as low an infestation of CBB as it is feasible. And this second bullet point really reiterates the importance of the end of season strip pick, using pruning methods like block stumping to help reduce the amount of CBB presence in first year production, to use early season spraying to help manage and control CBB early on in the season, as well as using an early season harvest to remove infested berries so that they don't go from the early berries that are developing on the trees onto the main crop. So on Kauai, Dr. Roshan Manandar has been spearheading and coordinating CBB's Kauai CBB response planning meetings. And these are monthly meetings that consist of CTAHR, Hawaii Department of Agriculture, and Kauai Invasive Species Committee faculty and staff and volunteers. And these monthly meetings help to keep everybody organized and updated on the status of CBB on that island, as well as what's needed to respond to new infestations. They are currently in the planning stage of testing Bovaria bassiana in the field at Kauai Coffee. As we know, Kauai Coffee has a little different environmental condition than we do have here on the Big Island, as well as on other islands. They're also initiating some soil sampling to determine the presence and or extent of coffee root knot nematode on Kauai, and that is in collaboration with Dr. Kun Huiwak. This past April, CTAHR, USDA, as well as University of Puerto Rico held the CBB and CLR conference. It was a joint conference and quite timely because we just had the arrival of coffee leaf rust in Hawaii as well. So to get that information was a really great thing to combine it with the CBB conference. The sessions are recorded and available online, and you can click on those playlists to view and listen to the different presentations. From CTAHR, we had presentations on biocontrol, on the economic benefits of CBB management, as well as the current recommendations for managing CBB as well as CLR. So coffee leaf rust. So just to give you an idea of the timeline, on October 20 of last year, I was provided with photos from a grower on Maui of what she thought was coffee leaf rust. And then on October 31st, I also received photos and samples of leaves with coffee leaf rust from Kona. And those were positively ID'd to be the coffee leaf rust, unfortunately. This year, to give you an idea of its additional spread, in January, Lanai as well as Oahu was also reported to have coffee leaf rust. And the most recent has been in Pauilo on the Hamako coast of the Big Island in June, as well as their samples that are being positively identified at this point in time from Molokai. So right now, Kauai, Puna, as well as Ka'u, some of our other major growing areas currently, as we know of, do not have coffee leaf rust infections. So since October, we've put together a lot of information. Some of this information is from what has been known throughout the world. Like Chris mentioned earlier, some of it does pertain to what we can do in Hawaii, and some of it did need to be tweaked a little bit due to our environmental conditions, our varieties, our cultural practices as well. And my website, hawaiicoffeeed.com, hosts all of this information under the coffee leaf rust tab. You can find information on disinfestation with sanitation protocols from USDA, the pest alert from HDOA, information on surveying, sampling, and monitoring, spraying for coffee leaf rust control, information on preaxorzemium. That's a product that Greg did talk about. It's been approved for the use on coffee in Hawaii under Section 18 emergency exemption from the EPA. There are restrictions for that product, so it's important to understand what that is so we can abide by the Section 18 regulations. There's information on pruning for the management of coffee berry borer as well as coffee leaf rust, and some additional posters, brochures, other presentations that have happened in the past that were recorded, meeting notes, as well as other scientific publications that are available online at this website. So if you head over, if you head to this coffee leaf rust tab and you hover over it, you can also find some of the publications like the spray pub that has been translated to Spanish, Tagalog, and Ilocano. And on this spray pub, I pointed this out in the past, but I wanted to make note of it again. On table 1, page 6 of this spray publication, I've created a chart that lists the different fungicides, contact fungicides that are available for use on coffee in Hawaii for the control of coffee leaf rust. And that red box is highlighting the FRAC groups, and the products are also color-coded. And this will help growers understand which products they can use, but also which products to rotate to or to alternate to next. And the reason that we need to alternate or rotate in the different FRAC groups is to prevent pesticide resistance. And so if we continue to use copper fungicides over and over and over, there is that potential that coffee leaf rust could become resistant to that particular fungicide group. So we want to make sure that we're rotating between the blue and yellow, or blue, yellow, and pink. Also, this chart provides clickable links to labels. Will tell you if the product is certified organic or not, and whether the product is compatible with Botanigard or Mycotrol. And right now, the only product on this list that's not compatible is Oxidate 2.0. So safe, legal, efficient, and effective use of pesticides go hand in hand with the trainings of worker protection standards. And so we've been hosting WPS training as well as Train the Trainer WPS events with HDOA and CTAHR staff and faculty. And in the last few months, we've held about 7 of these events, as well as an online webinar to train growers, managers, handlers, and workers so that they can safely and properly use and handle pesticides. We've held these in English as well as Spanish. As we know, a lot of our farm managers and a lot of the handlers and applicators of pesticides are of Hispanic background. So we want to make sure that they're getting the information as well. Sprayer calibration is also another important educational tool that we use to keep folks safe and using pesticides properly. We've created a publication for handheld spray systems for orchard crops and on how to calibrate the sprayer properly. This document provides a step-by-step guide on sprayer calibration. We've also created an Excel workbook that goes through the different steps of sprayer calibration and how to calculate the amount of product per gallon of water. And so we've been holding some field days at the Kona Station as well as in Ka'u to remind growers of the importance of sprayer calibration and how to calibrate handheld sprayers, how to adjust either the application, the spray itself, the wands, as well as the different types of equipment that can be used to get good spray coverage. The document as well as the Excel sheet help growers to determine water use per acre with the sprayer calibration. And then with those numbers, the growers can use the Excel sheet to provide calculations in determining the amount of product per gallon of water. And so we're hoping that this publication, as well as the Excel sheet, will help growers to follow the label rate directions to avoid over and underuse of pesticide products, help them avoid pesticide resistance, phytotoxicity, or the burning of leaves, berries, as well as flowers when there's inaccurate use of pesticides, as well as to ultimately reduce the cost of the use of pesticides as well. And lastly, we're excited to have a project for soil health as well as tree management systems that is taking place in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, as well as American Samoa. And this project is funded by USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service. So this is a 3-year on-farm project. We have a total of 20 farms in the different regions. And 4 of those farms are going to be based in the coffee fields in Kona as well as Ka'u. And on these coffee farms, we're going to be documenting the impact of implementing compost, living mulches, such as perennial peanut and other ground covers, the establishment of Lucina, which is a nitrogen-fixing shade tree, as well as looking at soil health and nutrient plans to help growers. And as we know, fungicides is not the only thing that we need to look at for coffee leaf rust control. It is also the health of our plants and our soil. So with that, I'm going to close and provide you with our contact information. This is the contacts for all the project PIs as well. If you have any questions that you would like to direct to them individually, their email as well as their phone numbers is provided on this last slide. And again, I wanted to thank all of our sponsors as well as partners and collaborators for helping us through this year and for supporting our work through extension and outreach and research. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Aloha, everyone. This is Ala with Hawaii Coffee Association. Abby's power went down, so I'm going to take it over from here. Thank you for your presentation. Now we move to Julie's presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hawaii's IR4 program is a 3-person team. Dr. Chung, our PI, is a turf and ornamental specialist. James Kam is an IR4 field research director, and the 3 of us are affiliated with CTAHR at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Today, I'm going to talk about the IR4 project and how we support Hawaiian agriculture. Then I'll give an update on our coffee projects and wrap it up with our response to coffee leaf rust. So what in the world is IR4? Well, IR4 is a federally funded program that supports our growers with their pesticide needs. We support specialty crop pesticide registrations. Specialty crops are the minor crops, and they're grown on generally less than 300,000 acres, and they include fruits, vegetables, herbs, horticulture crops, nursery crops, and others. All of Hawaii's food crops are specialty crops, including coffee. Now, specialty crops are susceptible to pests just like the major crops. They have weed problems, insect pests, nematodes, diseases, but specialty crops face unique challenges because pesticides might not be labeled on these crops. Now, why is that? It can take upwards of 10 years and over $100 million for a chemical company to bring a new product to market. Companies that produce pesticides focus their registration efforts on the major crops like corn, wheat, and soybean, these large acreage crops where they can see a favorable return on their investment. But specialty crops, on the other hand, are often high-value crops grown on limited acreage, so the opportunity for profit is limited. And there's also a considerable risk that the registrant takes if the crop is damaged. So these factors together have created the specialty crop pesticide challenge that's been recognized since the early 1960s. And this is where IR4 steps in. Since 1963, IR4 has been the primary resource for assisting specialty crop growers by developing the data to support pest management product registrations. About 80% of IR4's projects are conducted on reduced risk chemistries and biologically based materials that fit really well into integrated pest management systems. Now, Hawaii's IR4 program has a long track record of successes in serving the coffee, pineapple, banana, and papaya industries, as well as many other crops. And here's just a few examples. We've registered fungicides for post-harvest fruit rots in pineapple, herbicides for weed control in papaya. We've registered insecticides for banana aphid, which is a vector of banana bunchy top virus. And we've obtained registrations in many other crops like watercress, dragon fruit, passion fruit, avocado, lychee. In addition to our work with conventional pesticides, IR4 also has a program in biopesticides and organic support. So in summary, IR4 in general supports Hawaiian agriculture by registering conventional and biological pesticide products that enable our farmers to produce high quality food at reasonable prices. Now let's get into our coffee projects. Our recent insecticide projects include Avant and Brigade for coffee berry borer control. These products are still in the registration process. Exaril is registered for coffee berry borer, but it has been designated a state restricted use product, so you need to be a certified applicator to apply this product. All three are contact insecticides targeting the adult coffee berry borer. We're also working on an excellent product for green scale control, Sivanto. This is a reduced risk product that has an excellent bee safety profile. This product is actually pretty close to registration. Herbicides, Allion is registered as a pre-emergence weed material. We're also working on Amine 400 for vine control. Now, this product controls the Mauna Loa and Morning Glory vines that can be especially problematic in mechanically harvested operations. We're also working on Rely 280, a non-restricted use paraquat alternative. Both Amine 400 and Rely 280 are not yet approved for use on coffee, but we are working towards registration of those two. We're working on two non-fumigant nematicides that can be used in crop, Celebro and Vellum Prime. This is the product Andrea mentioned in their efficacy trials. These are both not approved yet for use in coffee, but we are working towards that. For Vellum Prime, we were able to establish domestic tolerances with a argument to EPA bridging existing international residue data. So this product it brings it a little closer to the final registration process. Moving on to fungicides, before coffee leaf rust was detected in Hawaii, the disease of importance was anthracnose. And so we have efficacy trials planned in both Hawaii and Puerto Rico for this year, looking at both conventional and biological products for anthracnose control. Getting into our coffee leaf rust work, most of you are aware, from Greg's presentation and even before that, that the Section 18 emergency exemption for Preaxor was approved by the EPA. And this was a collaborative effort with many parties involved, including the Hawaii Coffee Growers, Hawaii Department of Ag, BASF, the registrant, and others. I'm just going to go over what IR4's contribution was to this effort. So in October, when coffee leaf rust was first detected, I contacted our IR4 headquarters, and they reached out to several registrants to identify potential fungicides for coffee leaf rust that had international data, efficacy, residue data, and crop safety data to support the use. And BASF's product Preaxor stood out as the best candidate for approval of Section 18. IR4 quickly prepared a proposal to EPA to use the international residue data to establish domestic tolerances for both active ingredients in Preaxor. Now, this supported the Section 18 because this provided EPA with the necessary data summary for their dietary risk assessments. And they were able to review this data prior to receiving the Section 18 submission. IR4 will also be preparing the petition to EPA for the Section 3 label for Preaxor xemium, and this activity will serve as progress towards registration, which is a requirement to renew your Section 18 next year. Now, while the Section 18 submission was in preparation, BASF asked for some crop safety data. And this goes back to the companies assuming a risk if the crop is damaged. So they wanted to see if Preaxor alone or Preaxor in combination with different adjuvants would cause any damage to the coffee crop. So we conducted two field trials, James Cam and myself, and we didn't observe any crop damage in any of the treatments. That report has been written and submitted to BASF. I want to point out at this point that IR4 has long-standing relationships with many of the pesticide registrants at a decision-making level. And there's a history of cooperation between IR4, the registrants, and EPA. And these relationships are key to successful product registrations. We are also conducting efficacy and crop safety trials in Hawaii and Puerto Rico right now to screen other potential products for coffee leaf rust control. The first product on the list, Quadris Extra, was a project we initiated in 2017 as a preemptive measure for coffee leaf rust. We wanted to have a systemic registered before coffee leaf rust arrived in the islands. Unfortunately, it didn't get labeled in time, but we are working closely with the registrant now to expedite this project towards registration. Preaxor xemium is also on this list because BASF would like to see some efficacy data to support the Section 3 label. Moving forward, I plan to prioritize our IR4 funding for coffee fungicide projects for the next couple of years so we can get more products online. So thank you all for listening today. I'd like to thank Kona Hills and Full Moon Coffee for participating and cooperating with our field trials in Kona this year. And a big thanks to Andrea and her team at Kona Research Station, Nick, Dylan, and Matt. They help us coordinate our trials outer island, and they're always there to help us with whatever we need. So much appreciated. Please take a moment to check out our websites to learn more about the IR4 project. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I'm getting some feedback. Okay, can you folks hear me okay? Julie has been a very active participant in our weekly calls. So has Andrea. I'm wondering if there are any questions from the attendees. So Julie, as I understand it, the IR4 program is lives within the EPA. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about how that all gets initiated and funded so we can have a good understanding of what some of the processes are that are involved?
Sure. IR4 is not a part of EPA. We are independent. We're funded by NEFA, and we collaborate with USDA and NEFA. It's a NEFA-funded project, and it's national. So we have 4 regions in the nation. Hawaii belongs to the Western region, and we have access to all of the support nationally through the IR4 program. And IR4 has many established, since they've been around for so long and doing this for so long, they've established a lot of relationships, productive relationships. For example, the EPA team that worked on the Section 18 was led by Nancy Fitz, and that's our IR4 contact. And the BASF team was led by Craig Kleppe, and that's our IR4 contact as well. So we're all connected and working together, but ultimately the data gets submitted to EPA for the decision. So we're independent of EPA. I hope that answered your question.
I don't know if other people are having issues with the audio. I have a question from Rick. Can anyone cover the potential timelines for any of those Section 3 label projects? Please ignore if already covered. So the timeline for the Section 3.
I would say 2 years. Renewing the Section 18 for Preaxor next year should cover you, until this Section 3 label is issued. But the other ones that are we're just in the efficacy stage will take a lot longer. Typical timeline for a registration from start to finish is about 7 years.
Okay. Thanks. I hope folks were able to hear that. You have any questions for Andrea? Okay, well, thanks. We appreciate all the work you do in Hawaii for coffee industry and on other crops. I remember the days when we had no extension agent in the southern part of the island. And when Andrea came along, I mean, for years we cried to the university, and when Andrea came along, it felt like we had 5 extension agents. So thank you so much. And with that, I just want to thank our sponsors once again. Obviously, the Hawaii Department of Ag, who's our pinnacle sponsor. Our platinum sponsors are Monarch Coffee, Savor Branch, Tricar Braun, Greenwell Farms. Gold sponsors are Satake, Kona Hills, RCIS, Rural Crop Insurance Service. Silver sponsors, Green Flash Coffee, Maui Grown Coffee. This is our final presentation of the day. We start off again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. With USDA PBARC update. That's Pacific Basin Agriculture Research Center. Please also remember to cast your ballots. We will end the voting tomorrow at 12:15. With that, just want to say thank you all for joining us and for being patient. We've got folks in on the U.S. mainland, people in China. We have people in Ukraine, obviously Hawaii, El Salvador. So it's really a global effort today. I just want to thank everybody for your patience. Have a great rest of your day. Aloha.